Commission to order, please. Could the clerk please read the roll?
Mr. Badger,
Here.
Mr. Halter,
Here.
Mr. Prahl,
Here.
Mr. Volnick,
Here.
Mayor Riggle,
Here.
Vice Chairman Mansoros, Chairman Simpson.
Here. Do I have a motion to excuse this evening?
Motion to excuse Mr. Mansoras.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Paul, second by Mr. Badger.
Mr. Badger,
Yes.
Mr. Halter,
Yes.
Mr. Prahl,
Yes.
Mr. Volnick,
Yes.
Mayor Riggle, Chairman Simpson.
Yes. Moving on to item number 2, the approval of the motion summary of the Planning Commission meeting held on March 7th, 2018, as recorded and transcribed. What's the wish of the commission?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mayor Riggle,
Second.
second by Mr. Paul.
Mr. Badger,
Yes.
Mr. Halter,
Yes.
Mr. Prahl,
Yes.
Mr. Volnick,
Yes.
Mayor Riggle,
Yes.
Chairman Simpson.
Yes. Item number 3, regular business. Could the clerk please read item A into the record?
Item A, 2018-0429, a request by Ohio Wesleyan University for approval of a combined preliminary and final development plan for the House of Black Culture at 65 Oak Hill Avenue on property zone POI, Planned Office Institutional District.
And who will be presenting tonight?
I am.
Excellent, Chair.
Yeah, the site's located on the south side of Oak Hill Drive. It's just east of the Honors House that the Commission approved last year. The applicant is proposing to demolish the existing House of Black Culture and construct a new one on the site. It's very similar. It'd be about 3,600 square feet. It would house 12 students. The current one houses 12 students. From an engineering perspective, there are no formal engineering drawings are required because there's minimal amount of site plan revisions. We'll handle any site plan requirements through the building department approval process. This is a site plan of the house. To the north is Oak Hill Avenue. In green is the outline of the house. In yellow is the front porch, and in yellow in the rear is the patio. And then it has a walk that from the existing sidewalk, there'd be 2 sets of stairs to that from the sidewalk up. There's a retaining wall out there now. They'd eliminate or take the retaining wall out, put a new one in, and face it with stone that would match the house. From an elevation perspective, as it indicates, a single-story house. The bottom elevation is the front elevation. It have a stone wainscoting, fiber cement siding. You can see the columns on the porch of it. So it'd be a house that would complement the existing houses around the neighborhood. There'd be no additional parkland or open space in this development. The sidewalk would remain in front of the site. From a landscaping perspective, they are preserving 4 trees on the site. They would have to provide foundation landscaping that's identified on the elevation here. Tree preservation, they are removing 2 trees, 2 large trees that encompasses about 103 caliper inches. However, High Wesleyan established a tree bank some years ago, and each year they add trees to their campus, so we have to just ensure they add the trees that equal 103 caliper inches this year. Staff recommends approval with 6 conditions. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, just want to say, express thanks again to Ohio Wesleyan. I think we have a very good partnership going here on all of your projects. You have a lot of them the last several years, and appreciate the early coordination and calls. And it's really nice to be not just down the street, but I was going to say be good neighbors. We're really be good partners and good friends together, and help build the community. So appreciate that. It makes a world of difference to staff. So we're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you.
How many did you say was gonna live there? I'm sorry,
There would be 12.
12?
Currently, there's 12.
Okay.
They just replaced them. And there'd be parkings in the rear of this, so no additional parking would be required.
Do you know what the exterior color scheme is going to be? Or is it going to be similar to the Honors House, I guess? Is
I
the,
defer to
Yeah, I was going to
the
say,
applicant.
when they come up, that'll be my only question, I think.
Are there any other questions for staff? Otherwise, I'll just have the applicant come forward now. If you could just state your, go ahead, you can just state your name and address for the record.
My name is Peter Schanz. I'm sorry.
You can push that table forward. You look like you're really squeezing. You're out what happened.
Oh, yeah.
The poor guy back there's like, I'm squeezing. There you go.
Meet Captain Jeff.
You just want to be up close and personal.
I appreciate that. My name is Peter Schanz. I'm the director of the physical plant at Ohio Wesleyan, and my address is 28 Hayes Street here in Delaware. The rendering shows the actual color of the house. It's going to be white sided, which is the same finish as what's on the existing house now. We wanted to maintain several features of the current house because the population there has quite an attachment to its location, the big porch, the color, of the house. So we are maintaining those features.
Is the existing house handicap accessible? I see the new one is. I was just curious if the old one was handicap accessible.
It is barely.
Barely.
Yeah.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Are there any questions for the applicant while we have them up here? No? All right. Thank you. Are there any members of the public here this evening that wish to speak on this particular item on the agenda? All right. Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the Planning Commission. What is the wish of the commission?
Make a motion to approve 2018-0429 with all staff recommendations.
Motion by Mr. Prawl,
Second.
second by Mr. Volnick.
Mr. Badger?
Yes.
Mr. Halter?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Volnick?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Chairman Simpson?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to item B under regular business. Could the clerk please read item B into the record?
Item B, 2018-0378, a request by Vincent Romanelli for approval of an amended preliminary development plan for Glen Ross North subdivision to include a pool with a pool building and parking lot to the central park of 196 single-family lots on approximately 100 acres located just east of Glen Parkway and north of the Glen Ross Golf Club on property zoned R2 PMU, one family residential district with a planned mixed-use overlay district.
To give you some history on this, this 100 acres was annexed in 2015 and approved for the subject subdivision. 2016, it came in and did phase one approved, the final plat. You can tell on this site, the southern half of this, which is phase one, is there's currently built houses out there. What they're proposing now, they had a center park area. You can see it kind of roughed in there in the dirt. There it goes. Oh, not too far. This one. This is the proposed phasing now. Phase one's in the south. Phase two, which is in the middle, includes the Center Park area, and phase three would be to the north. This is the approved development plan currently. And you can see the Center Park had fields and had some play area in it and some landscaping and the like. What they're proposing now is just to insert a pool, 20-space parking lot, a pool, and a pool house. For amenities for the subdivision and move the play area a little further north in the radial park, which is about 7 acres. At this time, no engineering is required because this would come in as final development plan and final plat for phase two, which is probably in the near future is our understanding. The site layout, as I indicated, there's a 20-space parking lot with 2 curb cuts from the radial road. The pool itself is about 1,800 square feet. The pool house is about 1,300 square feet. One concern that staff may have in the future if parking becomes an issue is that they have an area where they can hatch in 20 additional spaces if staff requires that in the future. Currently, right now, on the inside of that radial road, this applicant indicated there's 71 public spaces. Add their 20 and maybe 20 more, we would think that would be sufficient for any max peak period at that for that pool area. The design itself, it's the pool house design, nice barn-like structure, has stone wainscoting, pitched roofs, has a clock on the front elevation. It looks like a very nice amenity to the development, similar to the Glen Ross pool like we approved a year ago on that project. It's consistent with the remainder of the approval. As I indicated, this is the amended plan, and we're just addressing the park area itself. So staff recommends approval with 7 conditions. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, today's discussion started with the developers actually several months ago, last year. And with the competition in the area, particularly with communities of Glen Ross and their significant amenity packages that they've put in here recently, including a huge pool. The developer was feeling as if they needed to do this to make it marketable. They've heard that from clients who look to build a house in the subdivision. Made sense. It still keeps the Central Park theme. We did spend a lot of time with engineering and doing some best practices, looking up parking standards. Actually, no parking standard in our code for pools. And so that's how we arrived at the numbers that you see here in the recommendations. So we're comfortable with recommending approval of this. And as Lance said, the details will come with the final development plan and plat for that section, which we do anticipate this year, shortly, a couple months maybe. So you'll see it soon. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for staff?
Not for staff.
Okay. Would the applicant please come forward? If you could please state your names and addresses for the record.
Joel Trewartha with NVR Ryan Homes, 8351 North High Street, Columbus.
Jeff Strung with EMH&T, 5500 New Albany Road, Columbus, Ohio.
My only question is, since this is a phase 2, that you haven't pre-sold any of the lots that back up to the current park area, have you? So let's say an owner has purchased a lot, but now, prior to knowing that there was going to be a pool installed.
No,
So you don't have any sold lots that are backing up specifically to the park.
That's correct. I mean,
Okay.
in fact, all these lots front the park, and the
Yes.
ones that front the park do not, they're going to be designed in the park section 2, so we haven't designed them
Okay.
yet.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
that.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant? Looking through here, I thought everything looked really great. I only had one recommendation you might consider.
Okay.
I noticed that there is a changing room in the women's restroom area, but there's not a changing room in the men's restroom. You just might consider adding a changing room, only because as a father who often takes his kids to
That
the
makes a
pool,
lot of
it's
sense.
nice to have that in both restrooms.
Okay,
But that's all I had. I think
Okay.
everything looks nice here.
great, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any members of the public here this evening that wish to comment on this particular case? Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the Planning Commission. What is the wish of the Planning Commission this evening?
I'll move to approve 2018-0378 with staff recommendations.
Motion by Commissioner Badger,
Second.
second by Commissioner Volman.
Mr. Badger?
Yes.
Mr. Halter?
Yes.
Mr. Paul?
Yes.
Mr. Bonick?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Chairman Simpson?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you.
very much.
Next item on the agenda under regular business is item C, the Glenwood Commons Shopping Center. Could the clerk please read that into the record?
Item C, Glenwood Commons Shopping Center. Case 1, 2018-0442. A request by Zaremba Group LLC for approval of a rezoning amendment from B3 Community Business District to B3 PMU, Community Business District with a planned mixed-use overlay district to allow a 9.7 acre land addition, parcels 11, 12, and a portion of parcel 5 to the Glenwood Commons Shopping Center located on the south side of US 3637 between Mill Run Crossing and Glen Road. Case 2, 2018-0443, a request by Zaremba Group LLC for approval of a conditional use permit allowing the placement of a PMU, planned mixed-use overlay district, to be established on a 9.7 acre land addition, parcels 11, 12, and a portion of parcel 5 to the Glenwood Commons Shopping Center located on the south side of US 3637 between Mill Run Crossing and Glen Road on property zone B3 Community Business District. Case 3, 2018-0444, a request by Zaremba Group LLC for approval of an amended preliminary development plan for Glenwood Commons Shopping Center on approximately 82.9 acres located on the south side of US 3637 between Mill Run Crossing and Glen Road on property zone B3 PMU. Case 4, 2018-0445, a request by Zaremba Group LLC for approval of a comprehensive plan amendment on the future land use map from commercial to mixed use on a 9.7 acre land addition, parcels 11, 12, and a portion of parcel 5 to the Glenwood Commons Shopping Center located on the south side of US 3637 between Mill Run Crossing and Glen Road on property zone B3 PMU.
Thank you, that was a lot. Who's our presenter this evening?
I am.
All right.
The subject site's outlined in orange here. Back in 2006, City Council approved the rezoning for Glenwood Commons and what now is Quill Pass, and also just to the northwest of this, the City Wetland Park. So now it encompasses about 180 acres with this 9.7 acre land addition to the site. And there's just a lot of cleanup work. These 4 cases are really cleanup work for the addition that they're proposing. It is zone B3, so we just want to extend the PMU district further east over this site. The aerial, you can see it's vacant land. It's pretty much an outlot now. Now it's just we're going to formalize it being an outlot. It's getting 2 outlots and a portion of it into the 3rd one out front. The entire development was the infrastructure of Glenwood Commons is already constructed. The roads, the utilities, everything remain where they're at. So there's no additions at this point because this is an amended preliminary plan. When these outlaws come in for development, they'll come in for final plans for each of the lots as we move forward. From a comprehensive plan perspective, currently that almost 10 acre site is identified as commercial. We think it makes sense to make it consistent with Glenwood Commons and make it mixed use. It only makes sense. And the same with the zoning. This is the amended preliminary plan. The portion in outlined in green is the Glenwood Commons area, which is sub-area A in your development text. We have to do some minor changes to that for consistency. The blue area is the 10 acres, and the area in yellow is the sub-area B, which is Quill Pass development. As I indicated, roads and infrastructure will remain the same. Pedestrian connectivity, it all remains the same. Where this abuts Glen Road, when Glen Road is widened, a bike path will be required along Glen Road in that area. As I said, the site configuration, it includes parcels 11 and 12 and a portion of parcel 5, which is just adjacent to the Myers gas station out there. From a landscaping perspective, a lot of infrastructure has been put in from landscaping. However, the area where this abuts 3637 and Glen Parkway, when the first outlot is developed, they'd have to install mounding and landscaping, which is consistent with what's out there today and what was approved in the development text several years ago. So from that perspective, it's those are pretty much all the development requirements required at this level. As I indicated, when it comes into final, we're going to have to review signage, lighting, and if any trees are removed. So from staff perspective, staff recommends approval to rezone with 2 conditions. The conditional use permit with 0 conditions, the amended preliminary development plan with 4 conditions, and the comprehensive plan amendment with 0 conditions. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, just a couple notes for you. This area was actually contemplated, not originally. This development goes back a long way, back to the Brighton Agreement days, perhaps even before that. The mayor may know. Before my time here, but in any case, this area that we're talking about here tonight was contemplated in a development agreement that we had signed with the Zaremba Group, as at that time being part of the Nutter Farms property, but they had an option on it, and part of that agreement indicated that they would eventually do exactly what they're doing here tonight and bring it in as part of the shopping center development, and we kind of square the corner off, if you will. So just wanted to give you a little bit of that background. I do have one change to the text that I need to note for you and have you include. I'm including it officially as part of my recommendation here tonight. It's on page 3 of the text. It's in purple on mine. I don't know if your colors are the same, but it's around the wetland park. Would recommend that we delete the last sentence. The development agreement. Really, I'm kind of sad. It's kind of sorry that I wrote something about the wetland park in this text, because it's not really what we were talking about, but I realized we hadn't captured it in the original text for whatever reason. It was on the plans. But that development agreement talks about a lot of things, one of which is how the stormwater is to work. It is our wetland park. We maintain that aesthetically. So just delete the last sentence of that, and it's captured in the development agreement already. How stormwater management works and how the aesthetic management works of the park. So we don't want to confuse anything.
Okay.
This is just the last piece that meets the PMU, right, for the shopping center?
Say that again?
Is this the last, all the other piece of the shopping center has a planned mixed use on it already?
Correct. We're
Except for
basically
this
taking
little
the
piece.
PMU and extending it across this
Okay.
piece.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Any other questions for staff on this particular case? Seeing none, we'll have the applicant come forward. You could just state your name and address for the record.
I'm Chris Erzner with the Zaremba Group, located at, let's see if I can remember this, 14600 Suite 1500 Detroit Avenue in Lakewood, Ohio.
Wow.
Jeff Strong with the MH&T, 5500 New Albany Road, Columbus, Ohio.
Any questions for the applicant?
I have none.
None? Anything you gentlemen want to add to the presentation?
Really, we're just doing this clean up everything and make sure everything's in order, make sure our lot's in order and our zoning's in order.
And you're good with the conditions as outlined by staff?
Yes.
Okay. All right. No more questions for the applicant? All right. Thank you very much. I'll ask, I think the answer is no. Are there any members of the public here tonight who wish to comment on this case? Seeing none, I will bring it back to the commission. David, I just want to confirm one thing with the change to the text. Do we need to do a separate motion for that, or?
You could, if you want to be very formal about it, which is fine with me. So yes, you could amend the text on page 3 to remove the last sentence under item G, wetland park.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Badger,
Second.
second by Mayor Riggle.
Works.
This is to amend.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Badger?
Yes.
Mr. Halter?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Volnick?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Chairman Simpson?
Yes. All right, what is the wish of the commission on these cases before us?
Make a motion to approve 2018-0442 as amended.
Motion by Mayor Riggle,
Second.
second by Mr. Halter.
Mr. Badger?
Yes.
Mr. Halter?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Volnick?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Chairman Simpson?
Yes.
You got a few more.
Yeah, we got
Oh.
They're probably going to pass now. Just guessing.
We got the other one.
Motion to approve 2018-0443.
Second.
Motion by Mayor Riggle, second by Mr. Halter.
Mr. Badger?
Yes.
Mr. Halter?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Volnick?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Chairman Simpson?
Yes.
Yes. Motion to approve 2018-044.
Second.
With the conditions, there's 4 conditions.
With conditions, this one.
Motion by Mayor Riggle, second by Mr. Halter.
Mr. Badger?
Yes.
Mr. Halter?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Volnick?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Chairman Simpson?
Yes.
Motion to approve 2018-0445 with conditions as amended. You got it all.
Motion by Mayor Riggle,
Second.
second by Mr. Halter.
Mr. Badger?
Yes.
Mr. Halter?
Yes.
Mr. Pearl?
Yes.
Mr. Volnick?
Yes.
Mayor Riggle?
Yes.
Chairman Simpson?
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Try to get you out of here a little quicker. All right, moving on to item D under regular business. Could the clerk please read that into the record?
Item D, Communities at Glen Ross, Section 15, Case 1, 2018-0447, a request by Pulte Homes for approval of a final development plan for the communities at Glen Ross, Section 15, for 52 single-family lots on 23.835 acres on property zoned R2 PMU, one family residential district with a planned mixed-use overlay district, and located south of Cheshire Road and east of Winterbourne Drive on Marble Slab Road, Winter Shadow Loop, and Bald Eagle Drive. Case 2, 2018-0448, a request by Pulte Homes for approval of a final subdivision plat for the communities at Glen Ross, Section 15, for 52 single-family lots on 23.835 acres on property zoned R2 PMU, one family residential district with a planned mixed-use overlay district, and located south of Cheshire Road and east of Winterbourne Drive on Marble Slab Road, Winter Shadow Loop, and Bald Eagle Drive.
Just give you some history. Back in 2016, Planning Commission Council approved a rezoning and preliminary development plan for sections 11 through 22 of the communities of Glen Ross, which is everything south of Cheshire Road. This site is located in the northwest corner of the site, just south of Cheshire, just east of the railroad tracks. It's zoned R2. As you can see from the aerial, it's fairly flat. There. This is the approved preliminary development plan, like 16 that I indicated was approved. The portions in yellow are sections 11 and 12, which we approved last year. They're actually building section 11 now, houses in section 11. Section 15 is directly east of that, which we're addressing tonight. And it includes 52 lots on the 23 acres. There is development text for this subject site as the entire development, and it's in sub-area 1B. Engineering is reviewing the plans for the final plat for the subdivision. This is a color rendering of the site. Access to the site off Winterbourne Avenue, south of the Cheshire Road of the roundabout, and extends east to pretty much a loop into this development. Staff is requesting an emergency access drive just east of the retention pond from Cheshire Road to the first Loop Street. It would be temporary in nature, would require a concrete asphalt apron out to Cheshire Road, but the access drive itself could be gravel, and it would be required until the sections east of Winterbourne Drive are constructed and have a secondary access out to there. So until that section is developed, we don't know which section it is because these always don't develop in sequence. So whenever that's completed, they can remove that access area drive and put it back in landscaping. Pedestrian connectivity, they'd be required to put a bike path along Winterbourne Drive. The lots themselves, minimum lot size is 8,450 square feet, 65-foot width lots. Minimum house size would be 1,600 square foot for a ranch, 1,800 square feet for multi-story. You can see on the site there's about 7 acres of open space. It's passive open space. You have a retention pond in the northwest corner. You have landscaping that would abut Cheshire Road and Winterbourne Drive in that area. The building design requirements, it'd be similar to the majority of communities, Glen Ross. 40% of the front elevation would have to be natural materials. Dimensional shingles would be required. It required 8-inch overhang on all the rakes and the like. From a landscaping perspective, they provided a comprehensive street treatment plan and landscaping along Cheshire Road and Winterbourne Drive. The mounting and landscaping would have to be consistent with what's out there today. Also, along the eastern portion of this section itself does not abut to the railroad tracks. Section 21 does. In that area, it's reserve area. We're requiring them in this section to put a 10 to 12 foot buffer adjacent to the railroad tracks to buffer the homes. This is what we required north of the tracks. It's been installed, it's been fairly effective, so we're required this all the way down the tracks per the approved preliminary development plan. We just want it installed now rather than later. An area. They indicate there's open space, but it's all passive. We have a large park across the street with all the amenities, a pool and a bunch of ball fields. Tree preservation, there does not appear to be any trees that qualify in this area. However, if there are any, they'd have to meet our requirements as we go through construction. There have to be any. Staff recommends approval of the final development plan with 12 conditions and the final subdivision plat with 12 conditions. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for staff?
Yeah, the 10 to 12 foot buffering, is that for the entire, all the sections, or you're just looking for it for this particular section, but not all the way down to 21 yet?
Correct. We're just looking for it along basically the eastern side of this section.
Correct. Yeah.
In the unlikely event that the whole development stops,
Right.
which is highly unlikely, at least this section has that buffer. And what they did in the phases north of Cheshire is they actually went ahead and installed that buffer higher than they were required to at that time. I don't think with the very first section because they started up in the corner, but with subsequent sections all the way down to Cheshire Road. So they may end up doing that again, which that'd be fine too. But at least with this section, and they're always trying to balance their dirt on each site as well. So a lot of times it's a question of how much dirt they have, obviously, and that sort of thing.
In that Vance property in the corner, can you go back to what kind of landscape buffering is going to be?
Apparently they have some large trees in this area. I don't know if deciduous or they're shrubs that really doesn't identify.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that, because that's a large property off on that corner, that there is enough buffering, to those 3 lots that are going to be backing up to it.
Yeah, and at least in this case, it's everybody's backyard is backing up to each other, including that lot. Long term, the plan is, and this is part of the reason why we really wanted that emergency access temporary, long-term, I guess, transportation plan is perhaps a grade separated crossing there, so unclear what that might mean for, kind of everything in that area, including that house. Long-term, obviously, that would be a conversation, but it could be a big bridge.
Sure.
Where somebody's got to figure out how to pay for that and when it might go in, that sort of thing. So lots of ifs, but we can make sure, Commissioner Prawl, that there is, at least some adequate planting in there. But I think with the backyards backing up to each other, it's, and they're all single family, including that property. Although that property is a little bit bigger than, as you said.
Any other questions for staff?
Yeah, I guess my final, it's not even, it's just a comment. I think I made the comment the last time as well when it came through for all of them was, even though there's a lot of amenities on the north side, there's so many houses that are being built on the south side. I mean, you're looking at over 450, almost 487, that I still don't see enough active non-park space on the south side. All the reserve land that's not retention is backing up really to the railroad tracks. There's just that small tot lot in the middle. But for me, if you just look at that plan, that's all housing, and 488 houses or 487 without some more active space on the south side. I think that was my comment before, and it's still my comment again. I just don't see that there's enough of that on the south side. Even with the northern side type of thing. So the northern side is going to be filled up, very shortly as well.
Yeah, as you know, and I think probably as I've remarked on that remark before, there's this is in accordance with the approved preliminary plan. I would note that it's a little bigger than a tot lot. I mean, it's easy to lose sense of scale at this side.
Sure.
It would be the equivalent of several lots worth, and it is to be programmed in whatever section that is. I don't know off the top of my head.
It's still less than 1 acre. I mean,
Yeah.
It's down to 0.8 acres. Kind of thing, so.
Conceded that for sure. We've also talked about, I believe preliminarily, and we can certainly talk in detail about making sure that we get some bike path connections as we get to the south. We had talked about that. And on the west side, although this is not showing it, we've talked to them, and I believe we conditioned prior approvals on a tot lot of sorts, playground area on that west side, right about in there where Lance is showing you.
Okay.
And they know they need to put that in and detail it out, really, I think, with whatever that next section is to the south as well. They had a number of bike paths and those kinds of amenities coming through there, but I hear you.
Yeah.
Part of the trade-off of getting all the significant amenities on the north side was that allowed them to spend those recreation dollars there for the whole community rather than, smaller, what would have been smaller things more dispersed around the community, yes.
Will we have the applicant come forward and maybe address some of that concern? If you could just state your name and address for the record.
Brian Pringer with EMH&T, 5500 New Albany Road West, Columbus, Ohio.
Not really sure if there's anything you can add.
About the amenities specifically, yeah, Dave, we had talked about, so the next section south of 12, which is shown in yellow, is section 13. So that's kind of when they will install the tot lot that Dave has spoken about. We're designing that plan right now, so it's in the works. Construction's probably slated for 2019, summer of 2019. So it would, be coming relatively soon.
Any questions for the applicant? No? Anything you have to add to the presentation or any concerns about any of the conditions?
Nope, I've looked over all the conditions. They make sense. So we're going to work with the city staff to address them.
Okay. All right. If there are no more questions for the applicant, then we're good. Thank you.
Thanks.
And I'm going to assume the answer is no, but are there any members of the public here who'd like to speak on this case tonight?
Sure.
Seeing none, I'll bring it back to the commission. What's the wish of the commission?
I'll move to approve 2018-0447 with all staff conditions.
Motion by Mr. Badger,
Second.
second by Mr. Volnick.
Mr. Badger,
Yes.
Mr. Halter,
Yes.
Mr. Prahl,
Yes.
Mr. Volnick,
Yes.
Mayor Riggle, Chairman Simpson.
Yes.
I'll move to approve 2018-0443 with all staff conditions.
Motion by Mr. Badger,
Second.
second by Mr. Volnick.
Mr. Badger,
Yes.
Mr. Halter,
Yes.
Mr. Prahl,
Yes.
Mr. Volnick,
Yes.
Mayor Riggle, Chairman Simpson.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, moving on to our next item on the agenda, Dave's favorite topic, the Planet Director's Report.
Everybody's favorite topic. Let's be honest. Except Mr. Badger. We know how he feels about this. Just two things tonight. I think we're doing a mercifully short meeting after the last several months, and the upcoming months may not be as mercifully short. We'll see. But comprehensive plan, I've been sending you a lot of materials, and I'm trying to keep you abreast of that project. We are really in full-blown, as staff at any rate, comp plan mode. As department directors can tell you, I sent out a lot of material for them to review and get information back to me in addition to their normal day jobs. So certainly appreciate all their help, and we're going to need it as we go through here, obviously. But we're finalizing the scope, getting together our public involvement plan, our final detailed plan with the consultants, and of course with Lee as well. We're starting to formulate at least some names for steering committee, and we'll make a broader call to the community to be involved in that process as well. The plan is to try to have diversity on as many parameters as we can: tenure in the city, where you live, maybe what you live in, obviously all, gender, ethnicity, all of those kind of things that we try to do as well from a diversity standpoint. We have a big matrix we will put all that information into as much as we get back, and as staff administration will then end up making a recommendation. I think my guess is we'll probably have far more people than we would have a manageable size steering committee, and so we'll have to balance all of those items, bring them back to council for probably a resolution of endorsement of the steering committee of some kind. So that's all in process, and it's a lot of work, but it's good work. As part of that, we're staff, Jordan in particular is here tonight, has spent a lot of time with our GIS experts, Rachel, before she left to have a baby, and Janelle, who ably stepped in, updating our zoning map and our comprehensive plan future land use map, our existing one. As you know, we've had a lot of changes in the last almost 20 years. Not quite 20 years. Getting on there. So that's been a bit of a work product, and to try to make sure that we have a system set up where as we make other changes as we did tonight, we can capture those rather than making them a huge work product at some point. But with the comp plan on the horizon and maybe updating the zoning code thereafter, that would be the normal course of the events. The comp plan map may look quite a bit different. The zoning map may look quite a bit different. We don't know the answers to this yet, but appreciate all of Jordan's efforts in regard to that. He spent a lot of hours in that, and a lot of frustration when he says, "Dave, look at the newest version of the map." And I say, "Wait, what's going on right there? What's wrong with that?"
He's not allowed to look at it anymore.
Yeah, he's cut me off. He's cut me off. So that means if there's anything left on it that is inadvertently wrong, it's He's done a really good job. So Jordan, I appreciate that. I want to take a moment to call out your efforts. So appreciate it. Ran the March housing permit numbers and commercial permit numbers here just this evening. We're finished with the first quarter. It's still hard to say in the housing market anything about trends because we kind of, as the mayor knows, being in the business, it's week to week, month to month still is. You never know when the next crash is around the corner. Let's hope that doesn't happen again. However, we do seem to have a little bit of a trend in the first 3 months because March's single family permit numbers were the highest that we've had on since I've been keeping records since back to 2005 and 2006, really, in that detailed way. We're over 100 permits now residentially for the year, which is about 40% already of last year's total. Things are a little bit busy in that regard. We are down a little bit in commercial permits, which I've been telling everybody who'll listen for years that we've probably been outperforming in that regard. So we're kind of due, and the commercial market obviously is a little figuring itself out now between Amazon and all the rest of it going on. But not down significantly, just a little bit. We are down pretty significantly in blanket permits. So those are decks, fences, pools, sheds, basement remodels, house remodels, those kinds of things. I don't know what to attribute that to other than it's been cold. Although that last few years, that hadn't mattered a whole lot, I will tell you, but it has been cold, has been very wet. I think the general feeling of the public I get with respect to the economy and these sorts of things is a little bit different this year than maybe it's been in years past, but we're also not in the height of the season for those kinds of things. I think, Jordan, did you just get your first pool of the year this week? So people are thinking ahead to warmer weather. And at a certain point, we have a bunch of houses that have done a bunch of those kinds of things, and we're adding more houses, obviously, but we're probably not adding houses at the rate that people are adding or have added decks and fences and sheds and those sorts of things. So just something to keep an eye on. All the rest of it keeps us very busy. So that's actually kind of okay for right now, especially for the inspection staff. But that's a trend. So, Mayor, I think I have to revise my earlier statements on the countdown to 40,000. As of now, I would predict that would be early June, or maybe late May. So yeah, so we'll have to fire up social media and pick a family out and do something for them. I think that would be kind of fun, and maybe a first Friday or something. I don't know. You're good at thinking things. So that certainly is it's a number. But that's a big number for our community, especially a change over the last 10 or 20 year period. And I personally think that, time I've been here, the community hasn't ever looked better, and I'm pretty proud of it. I think downtown is amazing. So, and that's due to a lot of people's efforts and all of us spending our money there ultimately. So, Lance, do you want to tell them what's on the docket that we know of? Things are very much in flux.
One item for sure next month is the AEP's constructing a new distribution office building off Slack Road, so we'll see that. There's 3 or 4 other projects that I was anticipating coming in. We'll have discussions with them later this week. Hopefully get a couple more in. So, but we still have a lot of backlog with one of these months.
Yeah.
Several months will be pretty busy.
Yeah, I don't think any of the projects have been taken off the board yet. They're just taking a little bit longer to get into shape. So, and they include some commercial, some mixed-use development, some apartment developments that just have never, they've been zoned that way, they haven't been built across the community. So, should prove interesting. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
On the southeast side, where there's a lot of growth, decks are not big. You're not allowed fences, you're not allowed pools. I mean, where there's a lot of growth, you're not gonna have a lot of permit.
Yep.
And most of those homes are already coming with the finished basements.
A lot of them are.
Yeah.
Good point.
The new builds
Yep.
are, if you had an older build, a lot of developers.
That's a very
say,
good
"Hey,
point."
let's put in, they're already offering that part of it, so it wouldn't surprise me that you're down on those.
As I say, it's okay. It's not these are not particularly expensive. These are not money makers. I mean, none of them are really money makers for us. But they do a fence takes at least 2 inspections, a plan review. So they do take quite a bit of staff time. We've had 600 to 800 blanket permits in the recent few years. So that's quite a few on top of everything else. And I think we're at about 75 for a 3-month period right now. So down quite a lot for that period. That's okay. I think the mayor's right. It gets a little bit warmer. We want to see a little bit more.
I think your housing permits are up because there's no houses on the market. You're at a record low for the amount of houses that we have. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And people can't sell a house because there's no place to move to.
Yeah.
So it's just.
And I
it's just
don't know what you're hearing, but just anecdotally, we're having more people call in and ask all of us, at least in the zoning realm, about, hey, I'm looking at this house, what might go next to us, of course, we have lots of ifs, ands, or buts for that. Things can change, of course. But anecdotally, I'm hearing a lot of feedback on houses that don't even get to market and having multiple offers, and even the old walk up and, hey, Bob, what would it take to buy your house? So that's telling of a market that's lacking supply.
But they
and
can't sell
has
their house
demand.
unless they have a place to go. That's the problem.
Yeah, they can sell them easily, just can't buy another one very easily or cheaply. So ultimately, that's probably a good thing, healthy thing in the economy for a moment, but it's got to find equilibrium at a certain point, or it does start affecting affordability.
I'm seeing purchase contracts with no inspections, with no appraisals, and no contingencies, period.
No.
And it's crazy.
That's
And they're
scary.
They're going $15,000, $20,000 over asking price. Someplace that bubble's gonna burst.
We still are in Ohio.
Yeah.
We are in the arguably the best part of Ohio, and that's a good thing. But hopefully not. But it does have implications as we look, to the comp plan in the future. How do we provide housing for workers and everybody in all ends of the spectrum, be they renters, be they owners, be they able to afford a very expensive home or a less expensive home. And I think our current comp plan and I suspect the future one is going to talk about making sure we provide that full range of housing. All of our plans that I've read up to this point, going back in history, have said that, and it makes sense. So interesting, we're still missing the top high end of the market, but that's just not normally our part of the market either. So, and that's okay because jumbo loans are having problems, difficult. So, although there's a lot of cash buyers in that end of the market too.
The higher the number you go, the more leery those buyers or those are for that extra 1% on their income tax. Right? And when you think about someone who you're talking like $1 million earners and above type of thing, if you're talking about high end type thing, and
And with
it's
the new
two,
tax law
it's two, but I mean you get half, right? That's one.
Yep.
Really, it's 1% on a gross type of thing, and they, those folks will look at it.
Yep. Well, and the new the changes to the tax law, I think, are definitely going to affect that end of the market with, less that you can write off now. Everybody's going to be different, doubling deductions and that sort of thing. I'll have to see how that goes. I hear tell the lobbyists are hard at work in Washington, changing some of that stuff. We'll see.
I'm sure they are.
Trying to change it.
Commission member comments and discussion. I guess we'll start down here with you, Andy.
No comments.
No comments?
I brought it up before, the gas station over there on William Street in front of Advanced Auto Parts. there was some landscaping that was supposed to be done on that property over a period of years. And so far, I haven't seen any. It's the second time I brought it up. And I'm just wondering when that will be kicking in, if you could just find that out. I don't expect you to know right off the top of your head. But that should be kicked in already when they were supposed to do that landscaping and clean that lot up.
Yeah, we did have conversations with them after your last comment. I just don't remember what the outcome was.
I don't remember it either, so I mean,
Well, we'll get you an answer.
and then also notice on Green Lawn, they're digging a hole. Is that for the house?
That's for Gary Milner's house. He has a property that's
Have utilities been extended out there?
surrounded. I believe he's been, no, they haven't. I believe he can access city water, but he has been approved for a septic system.
Oh, you're kidding me.
So,
There were about 4 people before that tried to buy that property, who wanted to put septic tanks on it. And they were told absolutely not. Not in the city, we're not allowing it. How can that be?
well, I think part of it is if George Rodman moves forward with his development, it'll bring sewer closer. But, those two were working together for a little bit, and then they weren't. Their timing is definitely different, so.
When they wanted to build the batting cage out there on Troy Road, they wanted to put in septic tanks, and they were told no. Absolutely not, would not be allowed. I mean, I just can't agree with that. I mean, seriously, I don't know who approves it, but I don't see how we can allow a septic tank in the city of Delaware when we have stopped anybody else from doing it. Now, there's something wrong there, and I think that there should have been some real thought about that before we do it. Because once again, that means that anybody else that doesn't want to extend the sewer line can say, well, I should be allowed a septic tank.
I hear you.
All right, because it cost me a lot of money when I did my place, and the sewer line was already there. And a lot of that building down there, they had to come across and make the sewer line even bigger. And we've been pretty solid about sewer lines, and now you're saying that we're going to allow septic tanks in the city of Delaware?
Well, I didn't say that, but I said that I believe that lot's been approved for it, so.
Yeah, as I say, I know that lot before he bought it was on the market for a lot of years, and that was the problem with it, was that the sewer and water had to be extended. Now, we've extended the water across the street.
Yeah, that's what I think.
But the sewer, that was always the biggest problem, just the expense of the sewer. I don't think it's right. Now, it's just my feeling. It doesn't make any difference because it's been approved already, but because I looked at that lot at one time, and that's why I didn't buy it. I found out what the cost of extending that sewer line was. And I was told by John Ray was the planning director at that time. I was told I would have to extend the sewer line. We've already allowed them to go down there and play in the floodplain with absolutely no approvals.
Well, he did end up getting tree approval and approval for that. So,
afterwards.
So that is an update I have for you.
That was afterwards, though.
The approvals were not in place before he started the work. That's correct. But the approvals were subsequently issued. So that is an update I have. And if that project moves forward, it's obviously an update.
Well, when it's already almost done, it's kind of hard to unapprove it. I mean, if I come in and start bringing in dirt in my yard and spread it around, and then come in and say, "Oh, I need approval now." Who's going to know how much dirt I have to
I
take
don't
out?
disagree with it, but we did make sure that the cut and fill were balanced, and we did make sure he didn't go through the place he was originally going to go through to get to the pond. So the trees that he was originally had approved to take out, he went around it. It's kind of a cut, kind of a clearing. And a lot of it was underbrush. So in terms of the trees, that original plan changed for that portion of it. We did determine that pond to be just a private pond. It wasn't spring fed. It wasn't providing, water course drainage for anything else. And so he had the right to drain it. May not be the way you or I or somebody else might have gone about it, but he did have the right to do that. So-
Well, I think you can see my concern over the floodplain down there.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I would tell
Well, I have
every
3
applicant,
lots.
including yours, don't, like, get your permit first.
I have 3 lots that I can't build on.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And he's moving dirt on floodplain. I can't even bring in dirt. There's got to be one set of rules.
You can do balanced cut and fill for small cut and fills like that. So we can talk about that for your property if you want to do it. But I hear you.
That's it for me.
Fire station 304, you have to be really, really close to putting some shovels in the ground.
Oh, yeah, I think did they put the silver shovels in the ground? Not yet?
Are you gonna do the silver shovel? Are you gonna do the?
I think they just want to get on with it at this point.
I have the signed Mylar as of this evening for the site plan. Pre-con was held on Tuesday afternoon for site and building. I understand 2K General is just getting a couple ducks in a row before they head out there and really start breaking ground. They're still identifying some of their subcontractors, but nothing pertinent for the immediate work to be done. So I think we're making good strides and progress on that project.
And we do have the building permit in, it's still under review. We have a couple of items to just clean up, make sure about, but that'll be issued here probably fairly shortly as well.
So the hard hats, we're gonna wear fireman's hats.
Hey, you should,
There you go.
yeah, you should totally do
I was gonna say, I like that, I'm getting somewhere. I like it.
The whole
Could you- you
silver
should use
shovel
axes.
thing, you can put Jackie and Jerry and Chief. I'm out of that. That's theirs.
that. Carrie's had a few work hours in this project.
There you go. There you go. I gotta promote it, you know.
Carrie, do you know the time, what, do you know the time frame to estimate it to completion?
No.
Okay.
know
I don't
it's
either,
scheduled,
I
but I
don't
don't know it. And they didn't have a start date either, but I understand that, is it Bill, who is the lead guy with 2K General?
Yeah.
He's on vacation in Aruba for his daughter's wedding. So we're trying to let him enjoy that for a moment. When he gets back, I think they'll be finalizing it.
I think clearly we all ought to go ask him.
I agree. Are you paying my ticket?
It's mayor's fund.
Wait a minute here. I need some more weddings then.
Sister City.
There you go.
In Aruba.
That's it.
That's it? Nothing? Thanks again to staff for all your hard work. Excellent job putting together everything for this meeting. And next regular meeting, May 2nd, 2018. Any known conflicts right now? May 2nd? If you do, just let Elaine know. She'll take care of you. And with that, we are adjourned at 8:03.